So I had this idea. I followed woodworking rules from 100 years ago, exactly as they did. I got my hands on some old books, the kind with the faded print and the hand-drawn diagrams, and I decided to build a project using only the techniques and tools they had back then. That means no table saw, no router, no domino joiner, none of the stuff I rely on every single day. Just my hands, some sharp steel, and a whole lot of patience. It's a different world, a world without YouTube tutorials to bail you out when you get stuck, and definitely no fancy modern finishes that dry in an hour. This whole thing is an experiment. It's about stripping everything back to the fundamentals. I wanted to see what it was really like for the guys who wrote these books. They built furniture that's still around today, stuff that's lasted generations. How did they do it? What did they know that we've forgotten? It's not just about nostalgia, it's about pressure testing these old methods against what we do now. Are we faster and better, or just faster? I'm genuinely curious to find out. The goal here is to test what still works and what completely fails in a modern context. I'm going to build a small cabinet, and every single step, from milling the lumber to applying the final finish, will follow the rules from a 1920s woodworking manual. I'm expecting some things to be a pain in the neck, some things to surprise me, and maybe, just maybe, I'll uncover a few forgotten secrets that are actually better than our modern ways. So, let's get into it and see if the old masters really knew best. The first rule was simple. All cutting is done by hand. No screaming saws, no dust collectors kicking on, just the sound of a sharp blade slicing through wood. I grabbed a rough-sawn piece of oak, clamped it down to the bench, and started with my rip saw. My first thought, this is gonna take forever. And it did. What would take me 30 seconds on the table saw turned into a 10-minute muscle-burning workout. You feel every inch of the cut. You're not just guiding the wood, you're powering through it, following that pencil line with your entire body. But then something interesting happened. Once I got into a rhythm, I started to notice things I usually miss. I could feel the grain direction change. I could hear the pitch of the saw change when I hit a harder spot. It's a completely different level of feedback. Instead of overpowering the wood with a spinning blade, I was working with it. The process forced me to slow down, to be more deliberate. There's no hitting an undo button here. Every cut has to be thought out, every stroke precise. It's less about speed and more about intention. When it came to the crosscuts for the cabinet parts, this is where the control really paid off. Using my tenon saw and a bench hook, I could sneak up on a line with a level of accuracy that, honestly, sometimes I struggle to get with a miter saw. For fine-tuning the length of a rail or style, a few passes with a block plane gave me a perfectly square, glass-smooth end grain. It wasn't faster, not by a long shot, but the connection to the material was undeniable. I wasn't just an operator anymore, I was a craftsman, feeling the tool become an extension of my hand. Next up was the joinery. The book was very clear, no screws, no nails, no pocket holes. Everything had to be held together with wood itself. That meant diving headfirst into the classics, mortise and tenons for the frame, hand-cut dovetails for the drawer, and drawboard wooden pegs to lock it all together. I started by laying out the mortises for the cabinet door. Chopping them out with a chisel and mallet is a meditative process. Tap, tap, lever. Tap, tap, lever. You slowly excavate the wood, creating a perfect, clean-sided pocket. It feels substantial, like you're building something that's meant to last. Then came the tenons. I cut the cheeks with my tenon saw, being careful to stay just outside my layout lines. Then, I used a shoulder plane and a router plane to dial them in for a perfect piston fit. When you get it right, the tenon slides into the mortise with just a little bit of thumb pressure. It's one of the most satisfying feelings in woodworking. This wasn't just about strength, it was about precision. Each joint was custom fit to its partner. Unlike modern manufacturing where every part is identical, these pieces had a relationship. They belonged together. To really test the strength, I made a couple of test joints and tried to break them apart. A modern pocket hole joint failed with a good hard whack, but the drawboard mortise and tenon, I couldn't get it to budge. The wedging action of the offset peg pulls the shoulder of the tenon so tight against the mortise piece, it's practically one solid block of wood. The dovetails were the same story. That mechanical lock is just incredible. The old-timers weren't messing around. These joints were designed to outlive the person who made them. They were, without a doubt, stronger than most modern fasteners. With the joinery cut, it was time for glue-up. The book had a whole chapter on adhesives, and none of them came in a plastic bottle. The primary choice was hide glue. So I got myself some granules and a glue pot, which is basically a double boiler for melting the glue. The whole workshop started to smell interesting. It's not a chemical smell. It's a very organic, almost soupy smell. You have to keep it at a specific temperature, around 140 degrees Fahrenheit. If it gets too hot, it loses its strength. Too cold, and it turns to jelly. Working with it is a race against the clock. It has a very short open time, especially compared to modern PVA glues. You have to get the glue on, get the joint together, and get it clamped before it starts to gel. This is where the old rule about dry fitting everything makes so much sense. You need to have your clamps ready, your mallet handy, and your entire assembly process rehearsed in your head. There's no time for second guessing. For the indoor parts of the cabinet, the frame and the drawer, it worked beautifully. It sets up hard and creates a very rigid joint. But the book failed me when it came to moisture. I made a small test piece, a couple of boards glued together and left it outside in the humid evening air. By morning, the joint was gummy. I could pull it apart with my hands. This is where modern chemistry wins, hands down. A waterproof glue like Titebond 3 would have been completely unfazed. So for anything that might be exposed to humidity, temperature swings, or the elements, hide glue and other natural binders are a definite failure. They're fantastic for stable, indoor furniture, but modern adhesives give us versatility the old masters could only dream of. After the glue dried, it was time to flatten the surfaces and flush up the joints. My modern instinct is to grab a random orbit sander and start at 80 grit. But the book said otherwise. Sanding, it argued, tears the wood fibers and pushes dust into the pores, obscuring the grain. The proper method was to use a card scraper. It's just a simple rectangle of steel with a sharpened burr on the edge. Honestly, it feels wrong. You're scraping a sharp piece of metal across a beautiful piece of wood. It seems like it would just gouge everything. But the result was mind-blowing. Instead of creating dust, the scraper peels off these micro-thin shavings. You can actually see through them. It's not an abrasive process, it's a cutting process. It leaves the surface dead flat and incredibly smooth, with a sheen that you just don't get from sanding. The scraper shears the wood fibers cleanly instead of tearing them. It took a little practice to get the burr just right and to hold the scraper at the correct angle, but once I got the hang of it, it was faster than going through multiple grits of sandpaper. The real magic happened when I looked at the wood grain. On a sanded surface, the grain can look a little fuzzy or muted, but the scraped surface was crisp and clear. The chatoyance, that shimmering three-dimensional effect you get in figured woods like curly maple or quarter-sawn oak, was 10 times more vibrant. The light just danced across the surface. For getting a panel perfectly flat and making the grain pop before applying a finish, scraping is not just an old method, it's a superior method. I'm honestly questioning why I ever stopped doing this on my own projects. The final step before assembly was the finish. The book offered a few options: boiled linseed oil, shellac, and natural wax. No polyurethane, no lacquer, no hard wax oils. I decided to go with the classic combination of shellac as a sealer and a top coat of wax. I started by wiping on a few coats of boiled linseed oil to pop the grain. It instantly brought a rich, warm amber tone to the oak. This part felt familiar, very organic. The shop smelled of linseed oil, a classic workshop smell. It's a slow process, as you have to let each coat cure for a day or two. Next came the shellac. I mixed my own from flakes and denatured alcohol. Applying it is an art form in itself, a technique called French polishing. You use a special pad, called a muneca, to apply dozens of super thin layers. It's a delicate, repetitive motion. You're not brushing it on, you're gliding it on, building up the finish layer by layer. The result is a deep, beautiful gloss that has a warmth and clarity that's hard to describe. It makes the wood look like it's encased in glass. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's no plastic look to it at all. But here's the trade-off: durability. This finish has no resistance to, well, anything. A drop of water will leave a white ring. A splash of alcohol will dissolve it completely. A hot coffee mug would be a disaster. I polished it all off with a coat of natural beeswax, which adds a bit of protection and a lovely satin feel, but it's still incredibly delicate. These finishes demand respect and constant maintenance. They're beautiful, but for a piece of furniture that's going to see daily use, they simply can't compete with the durability of a modern polyurethane. They look better, but they don't last. There was one rule in the book that I almost skipped because it seemed so impractical: letting the wood rest. The manual insisted that after milling your lumber to its rough dimensions, you should stack it with stickers and let it sit in your shop for weeks or even months before cutting any joinery. In my world, we acclimate wood for a few days, maybe a week. But months, who has time for that? It's a production killer. But for the sake of the experiment, I did it. I milled all my parts for the cabinet and stacked them neatly in a corner of the shop. And then I waited. It was agonizing. I had this project ready to go, and it was just sitting there. But I stuck to the rule. After 2 months, I came back to the stack. I took out my straight edge and checked the boards. I expected some movement, but I was surprised by how much there was. A couple of the wider panels had developed a slight cup. One of the long rails for the face frame had a tiny twist in it that wasn't there when I milled it. The wood had continued to move and settle as it fully acclimated to my shop's specific environment. This is where the genius of the old rule became clear. Because I hadn't cut my joinery yet, fixing these issues was easy. A few quick passes with a hand plane and the boards were dead flat and straight again. Now, they were truly stable. If I had followed my modern process and cut my mortise and tenons right after milling, that twist would have thrown the whole cabinet frame out of square. I would have been fighting it during assembly. By waiting, I let the wood do whatever it was going to do, and then I did my final dimensioning. It's a huge lesson in patience, and it absolutely improved the stability and final quality of the project. It's something we modern woodworkers, in our rush to finish, often forget. So after all that, what's the takeaway? The old woodworking rules weren't wrong, they were selective. They were developed for a world without electricity, for furniture that was an investment, and for craftsmen who had more time than we do today. Some of the rules, like using hide glue for a project that might see moisture, are clearly outdated. Our modern adhesives are just better for that. But some rules are absolutely timeless. The strength of a well-made mortise and tenon joint is undeniable, and the patience of letting wood rest before final milling is a lesson in quality I won't soon forget. And then there are the methods that are actually better than what we do today. For me, the big revelation was card scraping. The surface quality, the clarity of the grain, it's on another level compared to sanding. It's slower, sure, but the result is so much richer. It proves that faster isn't always better. This project forced me to slow down and reconnect with the material in a way I haven't in years. It's a reminder that beneath all our high-tech tools and fast-drying finishes, the core principles of working with wood haven't really changed. This was a huge learning experience for me. If this surprised you, or if you learned something, do me a favor and like the video. It really helps out. If you want me to test more forgotten woodworking methods, and I've got a book full of them, comment "old rules" down below. Let me know what you want to see me try next. And make sure you subscribe, because the next test gets even crazier. I'm thinking about building a project using only tools I forge myself. You're not going to want to miss that. Thanks for watching.